everyone. We are back with our GGA Making an Impact. GGA Spotlight is all about sharing, caring, the inspirational stories of our wonderful Global Goodwill Ambassadors. And today I have an amazing person, NANCY ABDULHAYDI from Egypt. She is an amazing person whom I just met via Global Goodwill Ambassadors. Just as the name says, NANCY ABDULHAYDI, she is the chair of MENA region including Egypt and chair of child welfare. Welcome, NANCY.
Welcome. Thank you so much. It's so good to be here.
I just got I was focusing very well to pronounce your name correctly because for me, pronunciation of the name is very important.
Thank you so much. You did a great job. Thank you.
I like to inform our viewers a bit about who NANCY is, even though she doesn't need an introduction. She is an amazing person who is doing an amazing work in the world. NANCY is currently the International Relations Director at Pharco Pharmaceuticals and the co-founder and CEO of IBIS, which is International Business and Investment Services. Before moving to Egypt in 2015, NANCY lived in the US and in the GCC. She earned a bachelor's degree in political science from Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey. Wow, impressive, NANCY. And a master's degree in diplomacy and international relations with a specialization in global negotiation, conflict management, international security, and the Middle East region from Seton University in New Jersey, USA. Wow, it is really, really impressive. Just reading about this person is so impressive. Imagine when we start talking, how we are going to feel. Little bit more, she has worked for some of the top private and public organizations throughout the United States, Middle East, and the GCC regions. She also worked for both diplomatic and international organizations, and prior to moving to the GCC, she worked for Egyptian Consulate in New York and the Saudi Arabian Cultural Mission in Washington, D.C. Wow. NANCY, tell me something what you have not done. Our viewers would like to hear from you.
With pleasure. Well, I have to say the most important thing about me, or the best thing about me, is I have two wonderful children. So I have my daughter, Nadalina, who just recently got married. I have my son, Adam Eldon. He's still in college, and he's 2 years younger than my daughter. So they're much my inspiration and my motivation in life. I also currently work for a big pharmaceutical company. It's one of the largest ones in the Middle East. So I am fortunate enough to work as Director of International Relations, Public and International Relations. So it's a very exciting field. My background, of course, was not in the medical or pharmaceutical field, but in the international relations, especially now seeing with the COVID-19 era, the importance of the medical or healthcare field. So it's exciting to be kind of, in that realm, and activities, which I've been really blessed to be in wonderful situations where I've been able to work with or support different communities. GGA was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for me to meet people, wonderful people like yourself, and some of the amazing, GGA ambassadors, vice presidents, and leaders there, because I found so many really dedicated and committed people, and it's so good having a community. I mean, because even as a humanitarian, one person can only do so much. But when you are a community of like-minded people and like-hearted people, I like to say, the impact is so much greater. And what it is too, even though we are in different countries and we have different humanitarian interests, but we're a source of motivation and inspiration and support for each other. So the whole GGA network has been incredible. Everything from Lisa and Richard to Chrissy to Ruby to really everyone there, Sharon. So I kind of see us as kind of like sisters and an extended family, or community. Ireland, and you're very much active also in India, and I'm also active in the United States and some other countries. So it's like seeing the different ambassadors in those countries, or us as ambassadors working in different regions and stuff. This is quite inspirational again, because it keeps us up to date on what's happening in the world and where the need is really, where it is. And so we can shift our efforts and our resources, to that community. But it's been an exciting experience, being introduced to Chrissy Sykes and the My Body is My Body program. I would have never known about it unless it was for GGA, and also learning about it and being part of it and being able to introduce it here in Egypt, and seeing the reaction of people. It just was the right program at the right time. Which I truly believe that it's always the right time to protect and advocate for children.
Very well said. I completely agree with you. It's like, when we are doing our things in our domain or in our respective countries, we are doing it quite well. But when we do it together with an amazing team, we tend to understand things in a much bigger and, I would say, broader way, because we see maybe Nancy is doing it so well. How can I do it? And then we share ideas, we collaborate and see what is working in another country. And that's why I would say GGA has been a learning platform, I guess, for each one of us in small and significant ways. And I always believe, like when we are learning and sharing together, we are growing. There's always a room. There's always a room for everyone to grow.
Absolutely. You have a set of different experiences and knowledge and skills. Mm-hmm. So you bring that to the community, as well as I and all the other members. And so we benefit and we learn from each other's experiences and from those skills that we complement each other.
True.
So you may be the focused on advocating for women's empowerment, mm-hmm. and not to say that this is not, as a woman, not one of my priorities, but I can learn a lot from your experiences and your also strategy, mm-hmm. And how you're applying that. Because I can find similar situations here in Egypt, for example, where those types of strategies can be applied, mm-hmm. But with a local and cultural, twist, mm-hmm. or flavor. So that's really what it is that maybe for me, I can add the knowledge of the local situation, the culture here.
Very
Whereas
true.
you bring a wealth of experience, and mm-hmm. other ambassadors, other GGAs bring a wealth of experience in different, topics or different, issues that can be very beneficial. Several of these spotlight, interviews that you've done. And I think this is really, really amazing because, we really need to know each other. We need to know what we've experienced, what we have, to offer, what our interests are, because this is the only way we'd be able to, where we can collaborate. So it's important for us as a community to really know each other.
True. I think, Nancy, whenever I read any of your articles or any of your posts, even on LinkedIn, I gather from there that, you are doing something for not just for your country, but also trying to have an impact between different countries. I know you are very much influenced by India as well, and your love for Bollywood.
Oh, yeah.
So yes, I mean that's something like, on a lighter note, there are things that we learn from each other's culture as well. Doing GGA Spotlight was something which, which just came up when I was discussing with Lisa. Why don't we share stories? Because everyone likes to listen to stories. Right. And when we share inspirational stories of our Global Goodwill Ambassadors, we can see what that person is doing so well and how he or she is creating an impact in their country. Let me get her in. I would love her to do something for children in Switzerland, or I would love her to do something for children in India, So we thought that it will be something great, because when we share stories, people will understand and people will know, if Nancy can do it, living in Egypt, so can I, so you could be a role model just listening to your video, just listening to your interview. You could be a role model for women out there who are going to watch you tomorrow, because women always need an anchor. Sometimes we need somebody to give us that gentle push. Yes, girl, you can do it. Now tell me something, Nancy, what have been your difficulties or challenges as a woman, because you're a very strong woman, I know that. But I'm sure you must have faced some challenges, especially in a foreign country. Could you share something?
Absolutely. What I wanted to add, what you said was very inspirational. It's very true. In order to be strong and in order to succeed in life, because again, everyone has a different definition or measure of what success is. But in order to be the best version of yourself, you have to fall a lot and you have to go through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering sometimes in life, because life is not perfect. So myself, yes, growing up, I was exposed to things that I would have been a lot, I think, maybe happier if I hadn't been exposed to, which did make me who I am. So I don't regret any of that because it made me the person that I am today. I raised my children as a single mom. Around the same time I was getting divorced, I was diagnosed with the muscular dystrophy called myotonia congenital, Becker type. So I had to deal with physical therapy. I was actually on Social Security disability for about 12 years, not working, until I just decided I wanted to go back to work. I wasn't going to just sit home and collect a check every month. That's not my personality. So I went back to school and I finished my master's degree while I was caring for my young children. My parents supported me, of course, a lot. And then I finished and got a job right away within a few months. I started working and then I decided I wanted to travel. After 3.5 years working in Washington, I got the opportunity to work abroad in the Gulf region. I got a great job. I went there. I started to work as a researcher. It was hard because I was alone. I didn't know anybody. It was a new country for me. The job was very demanding, but I pushed myself because I wanted to show myself and everyone else that I can do this. I'm not disabled. I'm not, disadvantaged because of my situation, but I'm strong. But being a single mom and raising 2 kids on limited resources and having a disability and overcoming that put me in a situation where I could not just sympathize for people, but actually empathize for people. I feel what they feel because I've been there. I've done that. And sometimes I'm still there. But at the same time, what it is I'm a spiritual person. I identify as a Muslim, but I am more of a Sufi Muslim. So I'm more spiritual in the sense that I believe that there is a higher power behind everything. I call him Allah. Other religions, they call him by different names. It's okay. And I respect all religions, and that's part of my faith and my belief because we chose who we are for a reason. I'm not one to argue that. It's God's will. So at the same time, that spirituality is what kind of pushes me to go forward because I believe that no matter what the obstacles are, if you have it in you, and we all do, you can overcome any obstacle and you can not just better yourself and the people that are closest to you, but even extend that beyond to your community and beyond to other communities. And this is where I find peace. I find peace and I find happiness in serving humanity. Different. So doctors, they save lives, and firemen, they put out fires and save lives, and teachers, they teach generations and generations of children. Myself, I can say that I have the most happiness when I feel that I am adding value to someone's life when they are in a situation where they are down, where they are vulnerable, where they are needing help and Very support, true. Even if that's emotional support. India, you mentioned India. Because of my spirituality and my spiritual belief, I feel energy when I go to different countries, and I don't want to sound like a weirdo, but certain countries have energy, So India has a very powerful, almost magical energy. So anyone who travels to India, if you really experience India, you're not just going as a tourist taking selfies, but if you really go and meet the people and visit the different communities, you will feel that magical energy in India. It's just incredible.
That's a very beautiful point that you have raised in here. When people go any place, even if they're visiting a friend's house, famous, some people are just going to her because they want to click a selfie with her and put it on their social media post. We were there. And some are actually going to meet her because they want to meet her. And that's what exactly when you mentioned this, I felt connected that whichever place you visit, you will definitely feel connected with the people when the intention is pure. And that's what I've seen.
Yes.
That's what I've seen in most of your posts. Because I'm just curious. Tell me something. Why are most of your humanitarian activities revolving around orphans or refugees? This is something that I have seen, but I wasn't sure. So I thought, like, maybe this is a good platform to raise this question. Could you elaborate on this aspect?
Absolutely. My main humanitarian interest, as you said, has been focused on both refugees and orphans. I'll start with refugees because growing up from a very young age, around 14, 15, one of my best friends, person that I had met, was an Afghan refugee who came with her family to the US and was starting from scratch. And we became really, really close. So I understood the plight of the Afghan refugees through her story and through her family's story. And that inspired me, motivated me, and many ways saddened me because I felt her pain. Because this friend also had a very bad experience as a young child and was abused. So unfortunately, it was a bad experience. And at the same time, her family suffered a lot. Like her brother, for example, was very strong individual. He left school so he could work and support his family, started a business, supported all his brothers, put them through school, took care of his family. And then once everybody was fine and settled, the post-traumatic stress disorder came out from his experience crossing the border in Afghanistan. And he suddenly became very ill and started to have, psychological problems. And he suffered, but he was strong enough to get his family over, the difficult period. That's incredible. Seeing those stories and understanding these are human beings. When we look at the news and we hear, 50,000 refugees or 20,000 women or 10,000 children, they have names, they're people, they have stories, suffering. We look at it like, okay, good. So they made it to the airport, but we don't think they're sleeping on a cardboard box for 3 days without food or water on the floor, and it's these things that we have to kind of sometimes remind ourselves. So this was the first thing that kind of inspired me. And about 20 years ago, I made the decision. I reached out to a bunch of NGOs, and one of them accepted to take me as a volunteer. I raised the money for my ticket. I raised some money to buy food and clothing for the children in the refugee camps. And I traveled abroad. It took me 24 hours because I did a connecting flight at 2 connections because it was like the cheapest ticket out there. I got there. I stayed 2 weeks. 1 week I had a stomach infection, but it was just the most amazing experience to actually see people firsthand that didn't make it as far as the United States. They crossed the border, they got into Pakistan, but their lives were completely different from what I had. And I started to appreciate what my life was like. And I started not to take things for granted. When it came to orphans, because, again, being a single mom and raising my children without the support of their father, seeing how that had an effect and an impact on my children. Even as much as I've tried to smother them with love, or my parents tried to smother them, or their other grandparents, but not having their father in their life was very difficult. And that started the connection and the empathy for children that either lost one or both parents or didn't know their parents. And in Egypt, I found this was a starting point for me here in Egypt. And then among the refugees, of course, in Afghanistan, or the Afghani refugees, was what is it like to really grow up an orphan in a developing country? We're not talking about the United States. We're not talking about Switzerland or any part of Europe. We're talking about Asia. We're talking about Africa. What is it really like to be an orphan? And obviously, they are probably the most vulnerable segment of society. And understanding it's not just that they need clothes and schooling and a roof over their head and food and absolutely and medicine. They need these things. These are basic human rights. I found myself, yes, I can offer that. Even at times where I don't have a lot of money in my pocket, I can still get there to sit with the children, to hug them, to let them know that I care, to read them stories.
Yeah, they just don't need these monetary things to feel that the people are there for them, they need that affection, they need that safe environment, that you are there for them. If something, God forbid, goes wrong with them, they can rely on you. I think that's the need of the hour, where children who have lost their parents due to COVID, or children who lost their parents because they were abandoned when they were young. So there are a lot of kids like that who need affection, who need role models like you, like Chrissy, the work she's doing. And there are so many people who are doing these kind of things. I think when more and more like-minded people join, and it becomes a mission to help the people, to help the children, or to save the children, I think world is really going to be a beautiful place, because these children will be growing up as more confident, as more loved and valued children. So once they grow, automatically they're going to give that to the society, and I think that's what is making a big difference.
To relate one quick experience that while you were talking, it reminded me of one of my visits to Sri Lanka after they had mudslides, and my T-boy at the time where I was working in Qatar, he said to me, did you hear about the mudslides? And I said, no, I haven't. And, he directed me to the link online, and it was like, I think we were in the middle of the week. And he said, my village was affected. And I said, where's your village? And, he explained to me, and I said, well, what if I wanted to go? Well, could you facilitate for me like a meeting or something there? And he said, absolutely, yes. We have this priest. He was an evangelical priest, and he's very, very active there. And he could meet you. And we have also the mayor of our town, And I said, great. Can you get me in contact with them? I believe it was that weekend that I went for a long weekend. I think it was like 4 days. And I remember they picked me up from the airport. It was so cute. They rented a van and they came. I covered, of course, the expenses, but the mayor with the priest, everybody was waiting for me in the airport. And they took me in this van for this long journey, to this village, which was, I guess it was like the northeast part of Sri Lanka. So it wasn't near Negombo, the airport, or Colombo. And when we went there, a lot of the people the survivors, they were homeless because they lost their homes in the mudslide. But the government had housed them in some schools. And we got to go into the areas where we actually got to see where, where the disaster happened, and you could see the homes crushed. And while we were walking in the street, we saw like a teddy bear under the mud. And, you could just imagine, and school books and things like that. It made it very real. And going and seeing the people, and they didn't understand my language and I didn't understand their language, but a lot of them were Tamil. When our eyes met, we connected, and I felt so like the uncertainty in their eyes of like, okay, we are in a school right now, but what's going to happen? Where are we going to live after this? How are kids going to go back to school? There was a little girl too that I saw. She was an orphan. I asked actually to see if there were any children that lost their parents. And they said there was this one girl. They brought her to me, and they had shaved her head. And they said this is the tradition because she lost both her parents. So it's part of the grieving process. But the little girl was just not emotional, very kind of like frozen, because it was so much. I mean, as an adult, to just comprehend everything that was happening. And I actually think I sent you one of the pictures where I was hugging that little girl. I wanted to take her with me, to put her, take her on the plane and just take her with me, it's not to say because God chose things that way, but it makes you still feel there's got to be something else. And I wanted to say with you as well, Ruby, because what's inspiring as well is women tend to be focused on the humanitarian field, because men seem to have more of this upbringing of like, you're the breadwinner, you have to focus on your career, making money, whereas women tend to say, but the humanitarian side, because of our maternal instincts, it's become part of our everyday life. So even for the working women, they may be part of a Rotary club or something, where they can feel like they're giving back to society. But that's the thing, is women empowerment. It's empowering women to get on their feet and to take care of themselves and to be the better version of themselves and to take care of their families. But it's also to encourage them to be able to really give back in society in the
I can
most
see that
impactful way.
you are getting a bit emotional. It's very, like, it's very nice when people come on the show. I have seen this. That happened with Dee, that happened with Chrissy, that even happened with Jelena. Like, when people come on the show, I like they're able to express themselves so openly. They share things which they have never shared on any other show or any other talk before, because you feel that there's so much to share. People are going to listen to you. People are going to resonate with you. Some people will think, oh, I was there in her place. Oh, I have been through what Nancy is going through. And that's what it is all about: giving, sharing, and showing that concern for the people. Women empowerment is not something like, where we are giving them power. Women have been empowered for so many years. They are the ones who are giving birth. They are the ones who are taking care of their children. So they have been empowered. They don't need that empowerment. But when we say women empowerment, it's just creating those safe environments for women where we give a gentle push to each other that I'm there for you. In case you need me, I'm there. I'm next to you. You can rely upon me. That's what is required. The reassurance is required, because women, when they're happy, they're very happy. But when they're sad, they become very sad.
Absolutely. And if you allow me to go full circle and to kind of maybe finish with, because we talked about the youth and we talked about women, but I want to talk about one other aspect which is really important to me when it comes to the humanitarian or the human side, and that is the elderly, because my father recently, he passed away about a year ago. He had Alzheimer's disease. He suffered from Alzheimer's disease for a number of years. My mother was, up until his death, my mother was in denial. Like, no, he's just making it up. He's acting. It's not real. She couldn't believe that he had changed and transformed, drastically, and in many ways regressed because of the disease. And we had to sit here and literally study what is Alzheimer's disease and what does it mean and what does it happen to your brain and why do you act this way? Why are they sleeping during the day and then hyper at night, and why they get angry so quickly, and why are they sad all the time, and all these things. And at the same time, my father passed away. That was the hardest thing, is going through the whole how should I say, textbook, symptoms of COVID, to the point where the organs start to shut down, and my father was on a respirator. But at the same time, the Alzheimer's part and the part of not forgetting the elderly. And this was something we did an event, and my company organized it, but we didn't collect any money. I actually run my company more like an NGO than anything else. Not very profitable, unfortunately, because most of my events, I'm like, oh, it's for that cause, free. I'm not charging anything, So we did an event for the Seniors Day, International UN Seniors Day, or Day of Older Persons, they call it. And it was under the support of the presidency in Egypt, and we got a lot of people involved, a lot of good sponsors, including Egypt Air. And actually that event was amazing, because we brought a lot of really, a lot of elderly that have really contributed so much to society. Some that were like heroes from the war, some that were like working with the elderly or working with, humanitarian. And we awarded them. We gave them like an award and we recognized them. And the main objective of that conference was to say to our president and our country and the rest of the world, don't forget, we cannot forget them in their darkest hour when we're crying all night. We need to be patient and we need to take care of our parents. I'm not putting people down who decide to put their parents in nursing homes, because they have different situations. I cannot judge it. But if you have the ability to take care of your parents the way they took care of you, I think that's the natural thing to do. So that would just be my last message, is when we talk about humanitarian work, don't forget the elderly. And this is what I love also about the Indian culture, is the elderly are almost godly. They're almost divine,
Very, very well said, Nancy. Really, it's like something, your parents have brought you in this world. So when they need you, you have to be there for them. We are not judging people who are not able to take care of their parents, but if you can take care of your parents, you should do it, because that's like something you are directly creating a way for yourself to heaven. Who knows where you're going after you die, but taking care of your parents, you are already in heaven, because you're giving them what they look for. You're giving them what every parent aspires for, being close to their loved ones. And on that note, Nancy, thank you so much for being on this show. You are definitely creating a big impact. Your story is very inspirational. You know, as a single mother, you have taken care of your children and at the same time given so much to the society. So just keep being strong woman as you are, and keep sharing with your networks just as you have been doing. And we are really blessed to have you as a Global Goodwill Ambassador who is creating and doing wonders for the world. All the best to you. Keep shining. All the best. Bye-bye. I wish you all the best. Take care.
Ma salama in Arabic means goodbye.
Goodbye.